clock on the wall ticked louder than ever. Every second felt like a reminder. A reminder of everything that had been lost, and everything that would never be. Ella sat at the edge of the bed, her hands trembling in her lap. The house felt cold, hollow, the cold that crept into your bones, no matter how many blankets you threw over yourself. She stared at the door, waiting, hoping, dreading. Tonight would be the night everything changed. She could feel it in her chest, a heaviness that wouldn't lift. They had been together for 8 years. 8 years of laughter, arguments, vacations, and promises. 8 years of slowly, quietly unraveling. Ella used to believe that love could survive anything. But love without trust was like a tree with rotting roots. It could look strong on the outside for a while, but eventually it would fall. The front door creaked open. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. He was home. Alfred. She rose to her feet as he entered, his face tired, eyes darting away from hers. He dropped his keys in the bowl by the door without a word. "You're late," Ella said, her voice a fragile whisper. "I know," Alfred muttered, pulling off his jacket. "Got caught up." Caught up. Always caught up. Caught up with work. Caught up with stress. Caught up with someone who wasn't her. Ella swallowed the lump rising in her throat. Tonight, she wasn't going to pretend. Not anymore. "Alfred," she said, steadying her voice. "We need to talk." He froze. The words every man dreads. The words that change everything. "Can't it wait?" he said, exhaustion coating every syllable. "No," she replied, sharper this time. "It can't." He sighed and turned to face her. The weight of 1,000 unspoken things hung between them. The things they ignored. The things they buried. The things that had been silently killing them both. "I found your phone," Ella said. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. "I saw the messages." Silence. A silence so loud it pressed against her ears. Alfred closed his eyes as if bracing for an impact he already knew he deserved. He didn't ask which messages. He didn't deny it. And that told her everything she needed to know. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he finally said, his voice hoarse. Ella laughed, a broken, bitter sound. Nobody ever means for it to happen. For a moment, they just stood there. Two strangers in the ruins of a life they once built together. "I still love you," Alfred whispered. Tears welled in Ella's eyes, but she blinked them back. She wasn't going to break. Not tonight. "Do you?" she asked, voice trembling. "Or do you just love who I used to be?" Alfred looked at her, and for a split second, she saw the boy she had fallen in love with. The boy who had once promised her the world. The boy who had held her when her mother died. The boy who had sworn he would never hurt her. But that boy was gone. And in his place was a man who didn't know how to hold on to her anymore. "I don't know," he said. And that was the real betrayal. Not the messages. Not the other woman. But the not knowing. The uncertainty where there used to be certainty. Ella felt something inside her break quietly, cleanly, without a fight. She thought it would be messy and loud. But sometimes, heartbreak is a whisper, not a scream. She picked up her jacket and her keys. "Where are you going?" Alfred asked, panic flashing in his eyes. "I don't know," Ella said. Her voice startled her with its emptiness. "I just know I can't stay here." He reached out to her, but she pulled away. It was too late. Too much had been lost. As she opened the door, the cold air hit her face, sharp and real. "You're just going to walk away?" Alfred called after her, his voice breaking. She paused. She wanted to turn back. She wanted to believe that love was enough. But love without trust was just a beautifully decorated lie. "You already did," she whispered, stepping into the night. The door shut softly behind her. Not with a slam. Not with a crash. But with a quiet finality that echoed louder than any argument ever could. She walked down the street, tears streaming down her face, not caring who saw. The streetlights blurred. The wind bit at her skin. But she kept walking. Because sometimes survival doesn't look like fighting. Sometimes survival looks like walking away from the thing you thought you could never live without. Lesson. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is realizing that love alone isn't enough to save you. You have to save yourself. But as Ella turned the corner, clutching her jacket tight around her, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from an unknown number. One sentence. One secret that could shatter everything she thought she knew. She stopped in her tracks. Hands trembling. Heart racing. She opened the message. And her world, already cracked, was about to be blown apart. Ella stared at the glowing screen, her breath catching in her throat. The message was short. Almost cruel in its simplicity. You don't know everything. Meet me if you want the truth. No name. Just an address. Somewhere on the other side of town. Her fingers hovered over the phone, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might shatter inside her chest. She should ignore it. She should walk away. She had already decided to leave the pain behind, hadn't she? But the thing about heartbreak is that it leaves 1,000 tiny cracks inside you. And in those cracks, doubt grows like weeds. What if Alfred wasn't the only one lying? What if the life she thought was broken? Was it built on something much darker? Ella closed her eyes, steadying her breath. Every instinct screamed at her to forget it, to run far away. But curiosity, that dangerous flicker of hope, pulled her toward the unknown. She hailed a cab. As the city lights blurred past the window, she clutched her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. The car stopped in front of an old cafe closed for the night, its windows dark and empty. She hesitated. This could be a mistake. A trap. But something deep inside her, a voice she hadn't heard in years, whispered, "You deserve answers." Ella stepped into the icy night air. The street was deserted. Her footsteps echoed on the cracked pavement. She pushed open the cafe door. Inside, sitting at a corner table, was a woman she had never seen before. Early 30s. Sharp eyes. Nervous hands wrapped around a cup of cold coffee. The woman looked up, and Ella immediately saw it. The same kind of sadness she had seen in her reflection for months. "You must be Ella," the woman said softly. "Who are you?" Ella demanded, her voice stronger than she felt. The woman hesitated. Then, I slid a photograph across the table. Ella's breath caught again. The photo showed Liam. But not with her. Not even with the woman sitting across from her. It showed Alfred. Holding hands with a third woman. Smiling in a way Ella hadn't seen in years. And behind them, a child. A little boy. "No," Ella whispered, recoiling as if the photo had burned her skin. "I'm sorry," the woman said, her voice cracking. "I thought you should know the truth. Alfred has a son." Ella's world tilted. The floor seemed to fall out from beneath her. Years of trying. Years of believing the fault was hers. All the while, he had already built the family she thought they were chasing together. "You're lying," Ella said, but the words were hollow. Even as she spoke them, she knew they weren't true. Tears blurred her vision. Her hands trembled. "He left me too," the woman said, her eyes glistening. I thought he loved me. But once I wasn't useful anymore, he walked away. Just like he's walking away from you." The words sliced deeper than any knife. Ella backed away from the table, stumbling toward the door. She needed air. She needed space. She needed time to process the brutal reality crashing down around her. Outside, the cold wind slapped her face awake. Her life and her marriage had been a lie. Not just a failure. A lie. The anger roared up inside her like wildfire. The heartbreak twisted into something sharper, more dangerous. And for the first time, Ella wasn't just sad. She was furious. She wiped her tears, set her jaw, And for the first time in years, she stopped blaming herself. Stopped believing she was the broken one. She wasn't broken. She had been betrayed. As she stood there under the broken streetlight, Ella realized something. Sometimes you spend your whole life trying to fix yourself, when all along, it was someone else's damage you were carrying. But just as she turned to leave, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't an unknown number. It was Alfred. "We need to talk. It's about something you don't know. Please, meet me. It's urgent." Ella stared at the screen. Her heart pounded in her ears. What more could he possibly have to say? What other truths had been buried beneath the lies? The question wasn't whether she would go. The real question was she ready to hear the truth, no matter how much it destroyed her? Ella didn't remember getting in the cab. Didn't remember the cold or the rain. All she remembered was the weight of Alfred's text pressing against her chest like a stone she couldn't lift. "We need to talk. It's about something you don't know." The same man who shattered her life. "I was asking for one more chance to tear it apart." The cab pulled up in front of a small park, empty, deserted, lit only by the dim, flickering glow of old streetlights. There he was, Alfred, standing under the archway, hands buried deep in his pockets, head bowed like a man facing a sentence he already knew he deserved. Ella stepped out. Her heart beat wildly, but not out of love anymore. Out of rage. Out of betrayal. Out of the need for answers. Alfred looked up, his face pale. Haunted. "Ella," he said, voice cracking. "Thank you for coming." "Get to the point," she snapped, arms crossed tight over her chest. He winced as if the sharpness of her tone physically hurt him. "I didn't just betray you," he said, staring at the ground. "I betrayed everything we built." Ella felt the world tilt again. "I know about Mirabelle," she said coldly. "I know about the child." Alfred flinched. "There's more," he said, barely above a whisper. Ella's stomach twisted. "More? You think Mirabelle was the only one?" Alfred said, his voice trembling. "But there were others, Ella. Other mistakes. Other lies." Her blood ran cold. "You see," Alfred continued, "when you couldn't give me what I wanted, I didn't just wait. I didn't just hope. I started searching for it elsewhere." Tears pricked Ella's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You blamed me," she said, her voice shaking. "You made me believe I was the broken one." "I was scared," Alfred whispered. "I didn't know how to love you without resenting you. And instead of facing that, I ran, again and again." Ella could barely breathe. Her whole life, the guilt, the self-loathing had all been built on his betrayal. The irony twisted like a knife. She had spent years trying to be enough for a man who was never even whole to begin with. "You didn't love me," she said, the truth breaking free like a dam snapping under pressure. "You loved the idea of me. You loved having someone to blame." Alfred looked up, tears streaking his face. "I loved you the only way I knew how," he said, voice cracking. "But I was never enough for you either." The words hit harder than any slap. Because deep down, Ella knew. Part of her had seen the cracks. Part of her had known. But she stayed. Out of hope. Out of fear. Out of believing that love was supposed to hurt. She turned away, the cold air slicing through her like glass. "Is there anything else I need to know?" she asked over her shoulder, her voice hollow. Alfred hesitated. Then he pulled a letter from his jacket. "It's about the child," he said, his voice barely audible. Ella froze. "What about him?" she demanded. Alfred's hands trembled as he held out the envelope. "He might not be mine." The words hit like a freight train. Ella stared at the envelope, hammering, her mind screaming. If the boy wasn't Alfred's, if the last thing she hated herself for wasn't even real, then what had all this pain been for? She reached for the letter, her fingers just brushing the edge, when suddenly, A shadow moved in the darkness behind Alfred. Ella's breath caught. Someone was watching them. And whoever it was, they didn't want the truth to come out. If this story touched your heart, I'd love for you to share your thoughts below. Your voice matters here. If you've ever carried silent guilt or silent pain, you're not alone. Hit subscribe and join a community that's healing together. Share this story with someone who might need it today. Sometimes one story can change a life. If you're ready to build real emotional resilience in 2025, tap that subscribe button. Our journey is just getting started. This isn't just a story. It's a space for healing. Leave a comment, connect, and let's grow stronger together.